Hi, Caitlin. Thank you for coming in today. So I just want to kind of start off and see what brought you in.
Yeah, I just recently actually went through a breakup with a boyfriend, and I was taking it pretty hard. I got pretty depressed after, and a lot of my friends were telling me that I should like go to therapy because it might be able to, I don't know, like help me feel better. So, yeah, here I am.
Yeah. I hear that your friends think therapy will help, but how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in therapy before, and it's helped me through like other situations. I just haven't been recently just because of like my schedule and money and stuff like that. But when my friend suggested it, I mean, I thought it was a pretty good idea just because I have been pretty depressed like after the breakup. I know that I'm not really myself right now, and I'm kind of just like throwing myself a pity party, it feels like. So I guess I was just kind of hoping that by coming to therapy, I can kind of work through some of that depression and kind of, I guess, figure out how to get back to like my normal self, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's awesome that you even came in. That's a huge first step, and a lot of people don't even make that. So, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
But something that you just said that kind of stuck out to me, especially the way you said it too, was you're like, I'm throwing myself like a pity party. And it almost feels like you're, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like shaming yourself for feeling this way.
Yeah. Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I've just been like, I mean, I've been like staying in bed all day and eating junk food and drinking wine and like crying, you know, like all the typical stuff that you do after a breakup or whatever. And yeah, I guess I feel kind of ashamed of, I don't know if I'm ashamed or if I'm just kind of embarrassed of the way I'm reacting to it because I mean, it was like a shorter relationship. Like we were only together like 6 months, so it's not like we've been together for years or anything like that. And a lot of my friends have gone through like way worse things and way worse breakups than this, and so like they got over it just fine, you know. And so I'm like, why am I having such a hard time with this breakup when it kind of wasn't even a big deal? Like it's not like we were gonna get married or anything.
Yeah. Do you feel like your reaction is because of the breakup with that partner, or do you think it was kind of like a bigger picture thing?
Um, I think it was a little bit of both, probably. I mean, I did really care about him and I did love him. I don't know if I was necessarily in love with him, but I mean, I did love him and I enjoyed spending time with him and he made me happy. And so, I mean, yeah, I am sad that like I'm not with him anymore. But yeah, I think it's also just, like you said, kind of like the bigger picture. Like, I'm single now. Like I don't have a partner. I don't have anyone. Like I don't have someone to go on dates with. I don't have like someone to talk to every day, you know, like things like that. So I guess like I miss him, but I also miss being in a relationship and like having that like my person.
Yeah, yeah. Um, what are some of the moods that you're feeling lately, like since the breakup?
Moods, I guess.
Or emotions?
Emotions, yeah. I mean, as for moods, like my overall mood has just been kind of mopey, you know, like just kind of, I mean, we're in quarantine right now, but just like staying at home, not doing anything, like just kind of, like I said, throwing myself a pity party. Emotions specifically, I mean, I'm definitely sad about it. I cried a lot about it. I'm like, again kind of embarrassed because I feel like I'm overreacting or something, or like, you know, it wasn't as serious as I think it is. Um, I guess kind of also just like frustrated with myself because I feel like I should be getting over it, and like I feel like I shouldn't let it affect me this heavily. Um, yeah, it's just like a bunch of mixed emotions right now. Like there's just so much like going on in my brain that I can't really like parse them out, it seems like.
What does it mean to you that it is affecting you, this way?
What do you mean exactly?
Like you say you're frustrated about it, that it's affecting you this heavily. Like what about that is so frustrating?
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, I think it comes down to, like, I feel like it wasn't a super serious relationship, which, I mean, it's weird for me to say that because, like, it was a serious relationship. Like, we were actually dating, like, we were exclusive. We were dating for, like, near half a year. So, like, I mean, part of me knows that, like, yeah, it was a serious relationship. It wasn't just, like, a fling. But then I guess it's just because a lot of my friends have gone through really significant breakups with like much longer term relationships. Like one of my best friends recently broke up with her one and only boyfriend of like 6 years. And I mean, of course, like she had a tough time with it, but like she's doing fine. And then here I am with a breakup of like 6 months, and I'm like a complete and total disaster. It feels like, and I guess it's just frustrating because like comparing myself to my friends and stuff, like they are perfectly fine coping with it, and like they've moved on, and I'm just frustrated that like I can't do that. Like why can't I move on from this if they can move on from a 6 year relationship,
How do you think it would change things, if it would change things, if those friends that you mentioned that you say are dealing with it maybe a little bit better, if they were having a way worse time than you, how do you think that would change what's going on?
I think, as like messed up as it sounds, I think it would probably make me feel a little bit better. Not like make me feel better, but just make me feel better about my reaction. Like
That would normalize it a little bit more to you, maybe.
Yeah, like I mean, it sounds messed up to say because I don't want to say that like, oh, I would feel so much better if my friends were suffering. But I mean, if I saw them having a really rough time, like, yeah, it would kind of normalize it, and like it would make me feel like my reaction is appropriate. Like maybe I'm not overreacting. Maybe this is just how breakups go sometimes. So.
Has there been people in your life make you feel like you're overreacting to certain situations?
Oh yeah. I think a lot of my life I've just been socialized to believe that. But specifically, I think it really started with my relationship before this last one. So my previous relationship before this breakup was very toxic. I mean, he was just very manipulative and like took advantage, not like took advantage, but just like took advantage of my generosity and like my forgiveness. And he had 3, 4, 5 chances to make it better, and he never did. But anyways, he basically when he broke up with me, he pretty much told me like, you have too many problems, like I can't deal with your problems while I'm trying to deal with mine, like you're just like, you're really depressed, like you're too, I mean, granted he didn't say this like directly, but he did say like, you just have a lot of problems and I can't deal with that when I'm trying to deal with my own problems. And like he would constantly make me feel bad for reacting to emotional things, or like he would just kind of belittle my emotions basically. And so I feel like that's where this whole concept of like me being too much and me being too emotional and me overreacting, and it was kind of solidified in that relationship, I feel like.
I'm hearing some kind of themes of like, I'm too much, I'm too emotional, I overreact. Are there other situations in your life where like those thoughts come to play?
Yeah, I mean, like all the time, basically. Uh, pretty, I mean, not all the time, but I feel like they are pretty prevalent in my everyday life. Like, anytime something negative happens or, something doesn't go the way I planned and I react, like a reaction is just kind of involuntary sometimes, whatever, but like I'm constantly worried, like, oh, did I overreact? Like, did I say something I shouldn't have? Like, am I just overthinking the situation? Maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was. Like, why am I freaking out so much? Like, and that happens, like, when something bad goes wrong with school, or I get in a fight with a friend, or, a breakup, or family, or whatever it is, I'm constantly, like, I react, and then immediately afterwards, I'm like, oh, was that okay? Like, was that appropriate?
It sounds like you're always kind of second guessing yourself, and that sounds really exhausting to constantly be reacting and then having to evaluate that reaction and, being like, did I do something wrong? Was it me? Those type of feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm constantly second guessing myself in like basically every aspect of my life. Like, again, like at school, I'm constantly wondering, like, oh, did I do this right? Like, did I do this assignment correctly? Like, or in class when I say something like for class discussion, I'm like, oh, what's that? Like, a thing to say? Like, maybe that was stupid. Or, yeah, just like not, like, even at work, like with my internship and stuff, I do things and then I ask my boss and they're like, yeah, you're doing great. And I'm like, no, are you sure? Like, I feel like I didn't do that right. And she's like, no, like, you did it correctly. And so it's just like, I'm constantly wondering, like, am I good? Like, not am I good enough? Well, yeah, am I good enough? But also, like, did I do it right? Like, did I say it the wrong way? Did I say something, like, stupid? Like, things like that.
Yeah. When you do get that, positive affirmation and confirmation that you are doing things right, how does that make you feel?
I mean, it feels really good. Like, obviously, I think anyone would want to be told that, they're doing a good job. Um, it just, it feels kind of, I mean, like validating, like almost like a relief. Like when you're constantly wondering if you're doing something correctly or you're constantly worried about how other people like perceive you, and then all of a sudden you have someone tell you like, no, you're doing a great job. It's almost like, phew, like this weight of like, I've been so worried that I've been wrong this whole time, or like that I've been messing up this whole time. But hearing this one person say like, no, you're not messing up. Like you're doing good. Like you know what you're doing. Like that's just like, wow, I needed to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah. What is the first thought that pops into your head when someone is giving you that affirmation?
I mean, I think the first thought is, like I said, like, wow, thanks. That feels really good to hear that. But then it seems like immediately after, I'm like, are you sure? Like they tell me like, for instance, going off of like internship and jobs and stuff, like my boss will tell me, yeah, you did a great job. Like, congrats. And, I'm like, oh, that feels great. Thank you. But then I'm like, well, are you sure? Like, are you sure I actually did a good job? Are you just telling me that just to like make me feel better? Like, are you just stroking my ego? Like, you just don't want to tell me that I'm wrong? Like, so, I mean, even when people like validate me, I still second guess myself. And that's so frustrating.
Yeah, that sounds really, really frustrating. I kind of just so I can gather just a little bit more information, if you're comfortable, could you tell me a little bit more about your relationship and kind of how like the breakup went?
Yeah, like with this newest one, yeah. So we met at work. We both worked at the same bar, and shortly after we started working together, he asked me to be his girlfriend, and everything was great for the first like we started dating last November, I guess, and everything was great. Like November, December, January, like they were awesome, and I just really enjoyed spending time with him and getting to know him. And then he actually, so when we first started dating, he was in school for business, and he realized that he did not like that. And so he wanted to go to school to be an EMT. And I was like, that's great. It's something that you're passionate about, definitely go for it. But it seemed like the second he started EMT school, which obviously is much more like, it's heavier, like there's a lot more stuff to do. Like he has a lot of clinicals and a lot of reading, and it was just much more work than his previous classes. And so I feel like once that started, it just all really went downhill. Like he was just so caught up with school that he wouldn't text me, and like we didn't hang out anymore because he's like, oh, I have a test, I have to study, or I have so much homework, I have so much reading, I can't do this. Like I would text him, and then the next day he would reply and be like, sorry, I was reading all day yesterday. And I'm like, okay, but you can't take like 2 seconds to text your girlfriend and be like, hey, I'm reading, I'll text you tomorrow, So that really went downhill, and like the communication just went downhill, and then it was just really rocky, and I just wasn't getting what I wanted out of a relationship. Like I wasn't getting like the affirmations or the quality time or even just talking to him. Like it just wasn't happening. And so I realized that I wasn't super happy with it, and I talked to him about it a couple times, like in person. I told him how it made me feel when he didn't talk to me, and he was always like, I'm really sorry, like I'll do better, I promise, like I don't want you to feel that way, I want to be with you, blah blah blah. But then eventually, like a few weeks ago, we didn't talk for like 4 days over text, and so I messaged him and I was like, are you alive? Like I haven't heard from my own boyfriend in like almost a week. He didn't respond, and then the next day he replied, and he was like, look, I've just been thinking, and I think we're really different, and I don't see this working out. Like, you're a great person, but I just don't see this working out in the long run. Like, hopefully we can be friends. And I replied, and I was like, you couldn't do this in person? Like, you couldn't even FaceTime me or anything? He didn't respond. And so then a few minutes later, I texted him again, and I was like, can we at least talk about this? Like, I wasn't expecting to, like, get him back or anything, but I would have liked to at least talk about it, and he also didn't respond. And then he also blocked and deleted me on social media. So that was a really long-winded response, but yeah, basically the breakup itself was just like a one and done, cut and dry. Did not get any sort of closure around it, didn't have any conversation about it. Haven't seen him since because, work is closed right now and stuff. So I never really got the closure that I was looking for.
Yeah. Well, first, thank you for sharing that with me, because I know that's probably not something that's super easy to just, think about and tell someone that you just met. Also, I'm really sorry that happened to you, because that's, in my opinion, not a way to treat someone. And I can imagine that really, really hurting. And I'm sorry. But I'm also wondering what was going on in your head during all that time, like during the breakup.
Yeah. I mean, when I first got the message, it was weird because I wasn't exactly expecting it, but also it wasn't completely out of the blue because things had been kind of rocky the past couple of weeks before that, so it wasn't completely unexpected, but I definitely didn't really see it coming. And I was kind of in shock when I first read that text message, and I didn't really know how to respond. And then a couple minutes after that, I just broke down and I started bawling my eyes out, and I was like, I'm alone. I've had a significant other all this time, and now I don't have anyone, was my first initial thought. I was like, I'm completely alone, I'm gonna die alone. I'm never gonna whatever. And it was just this spiral. But luckily one of my friends came over, and I kind of distracted myself, and I was able to see it from more of a objective sense, I guess. And Yeah, she kind of helped me realize that, like, I mean, I'm not alone. Like, I mean, I'm single now, but that doesn't mean I'm alone, you know? And so, um, that kind of gave me a lot to think about. And then, yeah, after that first day, I've just, that was like the height of it, you know? And then after that, I've just been really low. Like, I just feel like, I want to cry and I want to be sad, but I just feel like I don't even have the energy to cry. I don't even have the energy to think about it right now because I'm so busy with other things. So, yeah.
Did you notice if any of those thoughts kind of coming, like I'm too much, I'm overreacting?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I definitely thought that. Like when he first broke up with me and, you know, sent that message like, oh, we're just different. I mean, I was like, yeah, no shit, we're different. Like we're two different people. We're completely different people. But I started thinking because like I had talked to him about my mental health and I had talked to him about my depression and my anxiety and my tendency to overthink, and he was always pretty supportive. I mean, he has never dealt with mental health symptoms before, really. So he says. I doubt that, but so he says. Um, but he was understanding and he was empathetic towards me, so that felt good. Much better than the relationship before, where I didn't really receive that support. But then when he did break up with me, I was like thinking, I was like, well, maybe if I didn't tell him about my mental health, maybe if I didn't tell him about like how depressed I was, or maybe if I didn't talk to him about my anxiety, like maybe everything would be okay. Like maybe he wouldn't, I don't know. Which I don't think that's why he broke up with me. I think it's because we are very different. Um, and I agree with him on that. But I couldn't stop myself from thinking like, well, maybe he just thought I was crazy.
Just to kind of go on with that scenario, let's say you didn't tell him about any of the mental health things that you deal with. And let's say you're going through maybe like a depressive episode or your anxiety was really acting up. How do you think that would have impacted the relationship without him knowing?
I mean, if I would have, I guess, like, if I would have never told him and then he saw it, I think he would still be, like, understanding, but also he's just the stereotypical, like, I'm a man, I don't show emotions, I don't deal with emotions very well. Like, he's literally told me that before, that, like, he doesn't deal with emotions very well. But I think that he would have still been understanding if he were to see it. Now, on the other hand, if I didn't tell him and I just kind of suffered in silence and he didn't know what was going on, I feel like that would have also put a really big strain on our relationship, because if I didn't tell him, then I would have just sat there and ruminated and overthought every little thing and just made myself even more depressed. And so, like, being able to talk to him about it, I felt like really helped me. And so if I didn't talk to him about it, I feel like it would have been probably a lot worse, at least for me.
Yeah. So now that you kind of walk through that scenario, how does that make you feel about your what if situation?
I mean, it makes me feel better. Like I've kind of thought about this before. I haven't put much thought into it, but this just kind of reminded me where, you know, I don't necessarily. I've had some time to think about the breakup and stuff, and I kind of realized that I don't necessarily want to be with a partner if I cannot show them my full self. And I've kind of, as sad as it is, I've kind of come to the revelation that like my mental health is just a part of me. Like, I mean, I might not always be depressed, but I might always have those tendencies, or, you know, I might just be more susceptible to that in the future, or, you know, whatever it is. And so like that is a part of my life that I can manage, but I probably won't be able to completely get rid of. And I don't want to be with a partner long term if they can't accept that that's just a part of me. Um, but like thinking about the what if situation, like what if I just hadn't told him, it does make me feel better because I don't want to be in a relationship with someone that I feel like I can't tell them. Like if I feel like I can't tell you that I'm depressed, then what other things can I not talk to you about? Like I don't know. Yeah.
It seems like you've made a lot of growth from what you tell me, how you first reacted from the breakup until now. That's really awesome that you've done that work.
Thank you.
So I kind of want to know what you want out of this relationship, what you want to walk away from therapy with.
I mean, yeah, I've grown a lot since the breakup, but like I said, I'm still kind of trying to get over it and like manage my depression and stuff like that. So I mean, I would like to get like, some skills and I guess just like ways to help cope with depression and kind of get out of this like hole that I'm in. But also just knowing that, and I've known this for a while because I've been in therapy in the past, but like I know that I'm an overthinker. I know that I'm a highly emotional person. I know that I'm very anxious and like not confident in myself. Like, as we've discussed, I constantly second guess myself. And so I guess another like more broader goal of therapy besides just like what I'm going through right now would be kind of to help break me out of that cycle and realize that like I am competent, I do know what I'm doing, like I don't have to constantly second guess myself. So I guess just kind of building some self confidence as well.
Yeah. You told me that you've been in therapy before, and I'm wondering if you're familiar with cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like I've heard of it. My old therapist kind of integrated some of it, like changing your thoughts and stuff like that. But I don't know much about it. I haven't really done much work with it. I don't think.
Okay. So that is something I'm kind of I'm thinking of trying with you if you're perfectly comfortable with it. It's obviously completely up to you. So if this is something you're not comfortable with or you think something else would be better, just please feel free to say something. But just kind of like a quick little overview of what cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT is. Like you said, it's like your thoughts. So it's like your thoughts affect your emotions and behaviors. And like the theory behind it is kind of like if we start restructuring your thoughts, then your emotions and behaviors are going to increase in like whichever way like you want it to. Like if for you, say you're having that like I'm too much, well then your emotion is down, sad, kind of what you use, was it mopey?
Yeah, like just moping around, yeah.
And then your behaviors or like not leaving your bed, crying all the time. So if we could, in theory, behind this theory is that like if we can change that thought to being like, I'm not too much, I'm too much for the wrong people. In theory, that would impact your emotions, which would then impact your behaviors. And overall, then it would impact like your overall being. So it might decrease your depression. That's actually what it was like originally made for, was treating people with depression. It's been really shown to help with anxiety, eating disorders, substance abuse, like pretty much so many things. So if that's something you're comfortable trying with me, I have a couple of activities that I'm wanting to kind of do with you today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to try whatever.
Okay. So I want this CBT therapy has a lot of, not a lot, I should say a lot, but they have homework. And it's basically just to keep the work that we're doing in here together. Let's bring it out into your life and like, let's keep it going. And let's make it consistent. And hopefully the more you do it, the more it will make an impact in your life. So one of the things I want to start with is called like an identifying moods chart. So I have a pen here for you. Yeah. And so basically what you're going to do is like you have a line here and it says situation. So that's what you're going to describe. And it's kind of like your when, where, what, who. You know, I was laying in my bed at home by myself crying over a breakup. So that would be the situation. And then your moods might be mopey, sad, lonely, whatever you're feeling. Moods are usually one word. So if you're having trouble kind of putting how you're feeling into one word, it might be a thought. And so that's something that we can kind of talk about. So why don't you take some time and go ahead and fill this out. Maybe let's just do like 2 to 3 situations to start with, and then we can kind of talk about it.
I do have a quick question though.
Yes.
I mean, like, I'm fine with homework and everything. It doesn't bother me, but is it bad? Like let's say you assign me homework, and then the next session, like, what if I didn't have time, or like, what if I forgot, or I have a really busy schedule, and like I'm in school too, and so like I have a lot of that homework. And I mean, this is important to me, but I guess I'm just kind of worried, like, what if I don't get it done? Is that bad?
No, thank you for bringing that up. My personal philosophy is everything is therapeutic. So say next time you forgot to do it or you didn't have time, then we talk about, okay, like what stopped you from doing it? Like, it took 5 minutes, what stopped you from taking 5 minutes to do it? My goal is for you to complete the homework, but if you don't, like, that's still something that we can work with. Also, before you leave today, we are going to go through kind of like what are the barriers keeping you from completing your homework. You mentioned schoolwork, and we can kind of make a game plan on what's going to give you the best chance to complete this task. And I don't want to overwhelm you. I'm not going to be like, hey, do this 3 times a day, every day. So we're going to make a plan of what is reasonable for you.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, I see you on your last one. Do you need just like another minute?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, cool. So why don't you go ahead and start telling me about the first one?
Yeah, so the first situation was, I just kind of used the obvious one, like when I first got the text message, that he was like breaking up with me or whatever. And so I was sitting in my bed, so it happened in the morning, so I had just woken up. So I was sitting in my bed, and checked my phone, and I saw that breakup text, and my mood, it sounds kind of dramatic, but the only word I could really think of was like despair, or I don't know if that's a mood, but just like I don't know how to describe it really. Does that make sense?
I also noticed that you
just asked for your validation and approval for my answer.
Yes, and that when you said how you were feeling, you also kind of commented like it was overreacting. Like that's so dramatic.
Oh, I didn't even
know it
notice
sounds
that.
dramatic, but this is how I was feeling. What would it be like if you were like, I was feeling despair, period, and that's it.
That's interesting. I actually didn't even notice that I did that. I mean, I think it would be fine if I put that, like I, just despair, but I guess that just feels like such a strong word, but that's really the only thing that I could come up with. Like, I just felt like, I guess another mood that I could put there was like hopeless,
Despair and hopeless are perfectly fine if that's how you're feeling. There's literally what's so great about this homework is that there's no wrong or right answer.
Mm-hmm.
You put in despair, you get 100% because that is how you were feeling and that's how you are identifying your moods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Let's read the second one.
Yeah. So my second situation was I was at work at my internship and I had a really difficult customer who was just like really rude to me and like demanding and I mean I had to like keep the customer service persona going and like I had to be nice to them even though they were not nice to me at all. And so my mood in that situation was frustrated and I also put helpless just because I felt like I couldn't do it. Like I can't risk losing my internship. So like I couldn't really do anything about it. I couldn't tell them to like stop talking to me or leave or anything. So I kind of felt helpless in that situation too.
Yeah. I see a little bit of a thing there. Yeah. Okay. And then if you're comfortable sharing the third one, let's go ahead and do that one.
Yeah. My third one was this actually happened recently. One of my friends and I actually got into an argument. It was, we were like hanging out one day and of course the conversation like drifted into politics as it typically does. And so, we got into a bit of a heated argument about some of that kind of stuff. And in that situation, I was having a hard time like pinpointing a mood because I felt like so many different moods. I think my top mood for that one was frustrated again, similar to the second one, because I just kept thinking like, how do you believe that? Like, how do you have those beliefs? Like, that is so frustrating that you can't see my point of view. So that was my third situation.
Yeah. I'm wondering if, so when you asked your partner or you kind of were like, hey, why couldn't you do this in person? And they didn't give you what you needed, was a similar kind of like feeling like were you frustrated and were like, why can't you see my point of view? Like, why can't you give me what I need in this situation?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I'd never really thought about it from that lens, but like the more I think about it, it was definitely frustrating and also just almost unbelievable in a sense. Like I said, I'm a naturally very empathic person. I see things from other people's points of view. Like I'm very open-minded. I'd like to think that I'm pretty easygoing and stuff, and like easy to get along with, and so it just really blows my mind that there's some people out there who have total disregard for other people's thoughts and feelings and like emotions. And so yeah, when he refused to talk to me and like blocked me literally, I was frustrated and also just kind of in disbelief. Like, how can someone be so insensitive to other people? Even if you know, are totally different people, or even if the breakup wasn't amicable, which I feel like it was because nothing even really happened. But even if it was like a bad breakup, like you should still be able to empathize with people, you know? Or at least from my point of view, I think you should. I understand not everyone does, but
No, I understand. It's like, if I care for you in this way, how can you not do it in return? Like, if I'm thinking about your feelings and hurting your feelings, like, how can you not give it in return? It's frustrating.
yeah, and it almost feels, it is very frustrating, and it almost feels like I'm being like taken advantage of and taken for granted, just in the sense that like I give and I give and I give. Like I love people 100%, you know, whether it's friends, family, relationships, whatever. I love people and I give them support and I do whatever they want. Well, not whatever they want, but you know, like if they ask me to do something, like I help them out, you know, and I care about people, and that's just a huge part of who I am, and that's what makes me happy is caring for other people, and just the fact that like him breaking up with me in that way, it's just like he took advantage of all of that. Like he took advantage of my forgiveness. He took advantage of my like caring attitude. He took advantage of, you know, he took what I had to offer for granted, and that almost sounds kind of like, I don't know, pompous of me to say, but yeah, I just felt like I offered him so much, and like I gave 100%, and he gave me nothing.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned past relationship. That's how you felt too.
Mm-hmm.
That he took advantage of your kindness and how much you cared about him and how much you would do for him. Mm-hmm. And then this relationship, you're kind of feeling that same way, that people are just taking advantage of your caring nature. Mm-hmm. And I know that that's, again, so frustrating, but it's such a huge strength of yours to have that caring nature. Because as you can see, not too many people have that in this world. So that is something that I want you to kind of hold on to, and I hope that like never diminishes.
Thank you.
Huge strength. Go girl. Okay, so I am cautious of the time, so we are getting close. I do kind of just want to show you one of the other activities.
Yeah.
If we don't have time to fully go into depth, this will be kind of where we pick up next time. But this thing is amazing. So it's a thought record. I use this in my life. Kind of like my theory behind it is it's going to be a worksheet where you're physically writing down all of these like little prompts. Mm-hmm. But it's supposed to be modeling what eventually like you will just do naturally in your head. So it's going to go first category situation. So that's kind of like the who, what, when, where that we talked about earlier. Then you put your moods and you list every mood that you felt. Mm-hmm. So angry, lonely, sad, happy, whatever it is. And then you rate each mood. Mm-hmm. And so say my strongest mood was sadness. So I'm going to rate that like an 80. Then I also felt lonely. And that one was still pretty strong. Not as strong, so maybe that's a 60. Then I was angry, but I was more sad than angry, but I still had a little bit of anger, so maybe that's 20%. Mm-hmm. So you're going to rate everything. Okay. Then it goes to automatic thoughts, which is kind of like the images, the things that immediately pop into your head. So maybe I'm not saying this is how it happened, but like just as an example, so say when you got that text breaking up with you, maybe your first image was back when that past relationship, maybe a situation where he hurt you. Mm-hmm. That would kind of be like an automatic thought. Or if the person you thought was, why does this keep happening? Anything kind of like that, like your first thing. And Then we're going to circle or mark the hot thought, which that's the thing that was like the strongest, that's the most impactful. Maybe it's the thing that you, like when you are hurt or your emotions are really intense, that's like the thought that always kind of comes up. So that one, like the most frequent, most intense, we're going to like circle. Then this is kind of when the therapy kind of comes into play. So we're going to put the evidence that supports that thought. So say your thought is I'm too much. That's the hot thought. Evidence that supports it. Past partner couldn't deal with mental health. The most recent partner you felt like couldn't deal with your mental health. And, you know, those that might be evidence. Then evidence that does not support it is they didn't treat you right. You know, they weren't giving you what you needed. You know, those type of things. You know, you reacted to the way they hurt you. And then we're going to go into alternative balance thoughts. So this would be like, I'm actually not too much. They just weren't the right people. I'm not too much. They just weren't the people I should have opened up to, or they couldn't deal with me. I deserve better. And then after, you're going to put down your moods, the same ones, and you're going to rate them. So say after you did this, you were just angry. Now you're angry that you spent time with them. You're angry that they hurt you this way. That might go up. Maybe everything kind of goes neutral, you know? So I'm not going to have you do this today just because we're almost out of time. But this is something I think is really going to be beneficial, or my hopes is going to be beneficial for you. Do you have any questions, thoughts, comments?
Yeah, no, I mean, I have never seen something like that. So it is a little bit intimidating just because it's like a lot of categories.
Yeah.
But, I mean, your descriptions made sense. And like, I understand it for sure. And I agree that I think that it could be helpful just because I like journaling to begin with. And so this is kind of similar to that in a way. I guess my only concern is that, and like you said, we're kind of running out of time, so I'm sure we could dive into that next week. But I guess my only concern is that I feel like I've been like this my whole life, and like I feel like my tendencies and like my thoughts and stuff are so ingrained in me that it's just like this daunting task that I feel like I'll never be able to get a handle on, you know, because like I've been like this my whole life. Like, how is one chart in one therapy session supposed to fix like 22 years of existence? But I am hopeful, and I think it can help. So.
Thank you for saying that, and I want you to feel comfortable to question everything, to be like, hey, I don't know if this is going to work. Hey, you're not being the best therapist for me right now. Like, I don't feel like I'm improving. I want you to have this space to speak completely open and free without feeling like you're saying anything wrong or offensive. There's nothing you can say that will make me offended or upset. I'm here to help you. So if you feel like, if you're just questioning this, that's completely normal. This is not supposed to be a one and done.
Yeah.
You're fixed it, you're healed. Oh my gosh, everything's amazing. It's a process. And maybe for you it won't work. You know, I'm not going to promise that once we're finished with our time here, you're going to be not dealing with these things. But that is my hope. My hope is for it not to be 100% gone, but for you to feel better about everything, to have more of a grasp and control on everything.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So I think we did some solid work today. We got some background information. How do you feel like today went?
I feel like it went pretty well. I kind of voiced this concern with one of my old therapists, and like I feel like I ramble sometimes. So if I do seem like I'm rambling, please like stop me if you need to. But other than that, I mean, I feel like it went really well, and I can see how this can be helpful, like in the long run.
I didn't perceive you as rambling, and even if you did, that's definitely not a bad thing. You know, you're here to talk and tell me about things, so everything you're saying is important. This isn't my normal wrap up. Usually I am a little bit better on my timing, but because we are close on time, or well, we're over time now, I want to just schedule you, let's say 2 weeks from now, same time. Does that work?
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll put it in my calendar.
Awesome. And then you have my email. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I will send you home with that first worksheet that we did. And since we didn't have enough time, if you do have time to do it, go ahead. I really would like that, but if you don't worry about it. We're going to go more into depth on everything next time.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome.